We're specializing in the commercial real estate market. That's what we've been doing since the start of our real estate career. So we focus in office buildings, in marketing and leasing office projects within the Metro Manila area. And the people behind the company are the people that I've worked with for the last 10 years, more than 10 years, some of them. And our specialization is always in the commercial real estate market. We know the Philippine real estate market well. This is what we've been doing since 2008. And we want to stay in this segment because it's what we know, it's what we're good at.
We build lasting relationships and achieve mutually beneficial goals. We surpass our clients' expectations, and our employees enjoy a high performance culture anchored on continuous learning. We foster nation building through ethical and socially responsible business practices.
Imagine a world where with one touch, you're transported to paradise, where everything is integrated and you can now spend more time on what's important. Imagine townships that make everything closer, closer to where you need to be and where you want to be. Imagine a world where with a touch of your fingertips, you're able to work and innovate with the best and the brightest. Or what if the company you have is the best at throwing parties? With smooth interconnectivity, it feels as if they're just around the corner. Anything intertwined closely, everything interconnected. Luckily, we no longer need to imagine because our townships are already here. attracting sustainable townships and integrated lifestyle communities from Metro Manila, the key cities, and to the countryside. Here in Mega World, the perfect home is just one touch away. We don't just build your homes, we help you build your future.
Wala talagang cause and effect relationship. Even before itong naglabasan itong mga cell sites, mga cellular phones, meron ng cancer eh. So, how can we be sure na ito talaga yung pinanggagalingan?
These cell sites, we could transmit all of the results of all of our state-of-the-art equipment to the U.S., Europe, etc., so that we can consult with other doctors internationally using the internet. If it's a life or death situation for patients alone, and if our doctors can't be contacted for consultation, then it may mean someone's life. How many cases do you know about of someone getting cancer from a cell site? At this point, even in the US or in Europe, hindi pa rin proven that it causes cancer. These cell sites, I don't believe they do. If that's the case, we would all have cancer because there are so many cell sites around. I don't believe they should be afraid of cell sites. If that's the case, we already should have had market increase in cancer cases, if that's the case. And we do have a cancer unit. And most of the cancer cases we have are not due, or actually all of the cancer cases we have are not due to cell phone or to internet use.
Kung ang hospital may cell site, ibig sabihin nito, hindi sila naniniwala na nagpo-cause nga ito ng mga malignancies o yung relationship ng radiation signal from cell sites at saka pagkakaroon ng cancer, hindi sila naniniwala. Benefit na ibibigay sa kanila, especially dun sa mga diagnostic at mga laboratory examinations na kailangan nilang makita right then and there.
Honorable Carl Kendrick Chua, Acting Secretary of NEDA, the Honorable Ahmad Rizal Moti, the Chief Executive Officer of Pag-ibig Fund, Ms. Sheila Lobien, Chief Executive Officer of the Lobien Realty Group Incorporated, and Chairperson of the Women in Business Committee of the European Chamber, my colleagues at the Manila Times, the country's news source of choice and trusted since 1898, viewers joining us today on Facebook, YouTube, and on our website, www.manilatimes.net. Good morning and welcome to the first virtual forum of the Times, Business as Usual under the New Normal. The banner story of our paper today is about the palace announcement that Metro Manila will transition to a general community quarantine on June 1. With the lingering presence of COVID-19, the country, along with the capital region, is eager for the economy to reopen even more. Even as we have said in our editorials, the pandemic has both a health aspect and an economic one. The often mentioned line referring to the coronavirus cases may have flattened, but the economic toll is now coming into full view. Unemployment may reach 10%. It would not surprise us if it reaches an all-time high. Many businesses will not reopen even when the modified enhanced community quarantine is lifted, and more businesses are on the brink of bankruptcy. OFWs have been displaced, threatening the key driver of the economy, the remittances that represent about 10% of the GDP. These modern-day heroes are being repatriated in the tens of thousands. In fact, the Philippine economy is likely to see a contraction for the year. I could go on, but you all get the point. After more than 2 months under lockdown, no Philippine enterprise has been spared. Even the Manila Times, which has thrived on organizing business fora on various relevant issues, has moved from packed ballrooms into the virtual world. This is just one example of the new normal. Of course, the economy around the world has a similar theme. More than the present challenges, our thoughts are about the future, about how we can survive and overcome this twin crisis. Understandably, many others are wondering the same thing. This is why we have invited speakers today to talk about the economic landscape, the new norms it will compel society to observe, and hopefully to hear from them ideas and plans and progress for our recovery. Before we begin, allow me to express our appreciation to our co-sponsors, the Lobien Realty Group, Mega World, and SM, as well as our sponsors, Globe, Pag-ibig Fund, and SunTrust, and our media partner, the Manila Times TV. Thank you also to our business columnist, Ben Rutes. Good morning, Ben, who will help me host today's forum. So without further delay, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome NEDA Acting Secretary, Dr. Carl Kendrick Chua.
Thank you very much, Dante and everyone. Good morning. First of all, I hope you are all taking very good care of yourselves. This is once in a century that we are having this very difficult situation. And I would like to, of course, right now share the thinking of the government as we prepare our recovery program. So my presentation today will be a very short version of what we call the Philippine Progreso, or the Philippine Program for Recovery with Equity and Solidarity. The basic idea here is to turn this crisis into an opportunity. Now, let me now go to our phase and adaptive recovery approach. We started in March in an emergency situation where the patient called the Philippines is intubated in the ICU, and we have had Bayanihan 1 to support the poor, the workers, and the healthcare workers. Right now, we are seeing a lot of the country emerging from ECQ to modified ECQ or the GCQ. And we are now preparing with Congress the recovery stage. And initially, we have proposed the Bayanihan 2 and the Create, but there are now some adjustments, which I will explain later. So the analogy here is a patient called the Philippines is now recovering, has been put in the regular room of the hospital, and is being given dextrose. And we intend to support the country through a number of measures, which I will explain later. And finally, as we enter 2021, we are going to plan for a more healthy and resilient Philippines. The analogy here is the patient called the Philippines has been allowed to go home and must take vitamins, and we will make sure that all our policy and reforms will be aligned towards this new and hopefully better normal. So now let me go to the details of the recovery stage. This presentation is as of a few days ago. Today we hear from Congress some developments. So instead of just 3 bills, the spending and capital support will now be 3 bills. There is the extension of the Bayanihan 2, and there is the FIST, and there is the guide. Let me explain that later. Number 2 is the tax incentives under the CREATE. And the third one is the 2021 General Appropriations Act preparation. So let me first begin. We propose that the Bayanihan 2 1 be extended. This is the simplest mode because with that we are able to have flexibility to move money and funds to where they are most needed. And we will do so by reallocating and reprioritizing savings and other budget items to meet our health and recovery needs. Now, one of the important aspects of this recovery program is to stimulate domestic demand. We saw in the first quarter that GDP growth was minus 0.2 and private consumption grew only by 0.2 when in fact it should grow by 5 or 6% given our fast growing consumer economy. So the first thing we need to do is to put money and jobs back to the people. We will do this by number one, providing support to the healthcare system, because when people feel that it is safe to go out, they will go out and work. If they don't trust the healthcare system, then they will not go out. Number two, we will put also money to support the entire food value chain so that the most basic necessity is going to be secured. And many micro, small, and medium enterprise are working around the food value chain. Then we will restart the most impactful build projects. Now, the way we prioritize the build is that we first be realistic about the available money or fiscal space. Then we look at which projects in the 100 flagship projects, for instance, are ready. And we look at the impact on economic growth. And we will choose those that are most ready within budget and with a lasting impact to restore jobs. And we hope the private sector is ready to support us. And we hope that we are also able to make adjustment to include more health and digital economy projects. Finally, we have the tax incentives called CREATE, which is a repackaged version of our CITIRA, or the Corporate Income Tax and Incentives Reform Act. And we will give all firms, all small, non-large, all firms rather a lower corporate income tax rate from 30 to 25% immediately starting July 2020. And we will extend the net operating loss carryover for the small firms, not the non-large firms, up to 5 years, so that their losses today, they can credit it to their future tax payment. For new investors, we will actively seek them out, give them tailor-fitted incentives. For existing investors, we will not change anything for the first 4 to 9 years, so they can adjust, and after that, they can apply again. For the countryside investors, we will give more in support of the Balik Probinsya Bagong Pag-asa program. And in all of these, the FIRB, or the Fiscal Incentives Review Board, will be the one to decide, manage, and improve the governance of the incentives so that they are given performance-based, targeted, time-bound, and transparent. And finally, related to that is that the 2021 GAA preparation will be aligned with our new normal, so that we have a way to continue supporting our people and the healthcare system as we transition through this crisis. Now, finally, I'd like to just spend a few minutes talking about the resiliency stage. The resiliency stage, we have two instruments, the budget and the structural reforms. And we intend to align the last 2 years of this administration to making the Philippines much stronger to address any shocks in the future. Unfortunately, we know that we will get some crisis or global shock every 10 years because of the Asian financial crisis in 98, the global financial crisis in 2009. We were actually very ready to face such a crisis because the global economy was slowing down and there was a trade war. But no one thought that this crisis would be in the form of a virus, an invisible enemy. So now we have to rethink everything that we do. So what are we thinking? First, we will prioritize build, digital infrastructure, health, housing, water, and sanitation. All of these are the basic foundations of a new normal. And we will put a bit more money in the budget to support all these, and some more flexibility so that at any given time, if there is a second wave, for instance, or a third wave, we can respond to that immediately. Now, the next one is we are proposing a number of structural reforms to make our healthcare sector stronger. For instance, the hospitals, the pharma-grade medical supplies, inventory of strategic equipment, virology center, a pharma development center. In agriculture, we want to put more money in productivity enhancement. We want everything to be digitalized in the government. So hopefully in the coming years, no one will need to go to a government office to transact. Everything will be online. We want to pass the 3 economic liberalization bills, including the amendment to the Public Service Act. And we also want to improve the ease of credit and Industry 4.0. So all of these don't really cost too much money, but they can radically make the economy much stronger and can provide new opportunities for growth. Then we are going to focus on education, social protection, labor, public transport, logistics, and disaster response to include virus or health-related disaster response. So all of these are what we propose to do in the next 12 months. Some of them are easy to do, some are more difficult, but we think these are the basic elements for us to be able to survive and do better in the new normal. So with that, I would like to end. Thank you very much for your time. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Secretary. If it permit me, there are some people watching us on Facebook who sent us some questions. There is a question here from Ms. Sheila De La Torre, and that is, how do we deal with companies who do not have a work from home policy but are part of the essential sector?
Well, for instance, those in the food sector, of course, you cannot work from home. And that is why we are prioritizing the public transport, for instance, for them. We are also looking at the possibility of having more electronic or e-commerce transaction for the essential sector. In fact, I'll just share in my condo. Every other day, there is a person who brings fresh vegetables and fruits and sells them. Outside my condo, every week there is what do you call a mobile market. So we all have to think of new ways of providing the service. That's basically my point. Either you do it electronically, like have it delivered, or you provide a village or community markets. So those are the things we need to think about.
Thank you, Secretary. If I may be permitted, just the final question.
Sure.
In your presentation earlier, you said that using the analogy of a patient, the Philippines will be sent home and will be taking vitamins by 2021. Is that the earliest we can see a recovery, and between now and then, and things will remain fluid?
We have released already our Development Budget Coordination Committee, or the DBCC, which is the Economic Manager's Macroeconomic Framework, which shows a recovery of 8% next year from our contraction of 3.4% this year. Of course, that hinges, we are not crystal readers in government. We do not look up the ceiling. We have a model.
Right.
It is based on assumptions and policy. So let's
Right.
work together to implement those policies proactively to get the desired outcome that we want.
Thank you, Secretary. One of those policies, wear masks, Ben. Wear masks when you're working with people. Thank you very much, Secretary. Any final words you'd like to say? Parting words?
Well, I just want to thank you, Dante, Ben, and Manila Times. I understand you have had a history of supporting the government's reforms, so thank you for that. I hope you continue to support. Help the government convey to the public actually what is the reality. Nowadays, we are, I think, focusing too much on social media, and sometimes the news spreads so fast that we are not sure if they are of sound basis. So I think the role of media and everyone is to check the facts, also share the good news, and contribute to solutions, not just to complain about some problems. So I hope this would be a very good mentality that we can all share so that we can move this country forward. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
We
you.
have a lot more questions, but I know you're very busy, but we appreciate the time you've given us today. Thank you very much, Secretary.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
you.
Take care, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Pag-ibig Fund CEO, Mr. Ahmad Rizaldi Moti. Mr. Moti?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. And thank you so much, Manila Times, especially to you, our good friend, Mr. Klink, for giving me this opportunity to join this online forum. So maybe if we can show the slides. All right. So I'll go through this quickly. Pag-ibig Fund, or Lingkod Pag-ibig, under the new normal, these are the measures that we have in place. So we will be requiring, of course, the wearing of face masks at all times. Temperature will be taken. Those who would register temperatures higher than 37.5 degrees would be asked to drop their, or to just leave their application forms with our frontliners outside, so that the member can take care of himself or herself and seek medical help. There's also the disinfection of footwear. Inside our branches, it's a controlled environment. There's going to be 2-meter social distancing in our lobbies. And in the back room, we've created silos to protect our own employees moving forward. We expect a huge number of members going to our branches to avail of calamity loans when MECQ is lifted in Metro Manila. Next slide, please. We are also happy to share with our members that our Loyalty Card Plus actually serves as a cash card also. So for those members who have yet to avail of Loyalty Card Plus, please do so in branches that are already open, so that should you need to borrow from the fund, you don't have to go to our branches anymore. You can do it online, and it gets credited to your account immediately. Another option, if you don't like the Loyalty Card Plus, you can also get other cash cards from our partner banks, such as Land Bank, DBP, and UCPB. Our Loyalty Card Plus, we have 2 accredited universal banks, Asia United Bank and Union Bank, and we are currently working with other partner banks of ours for them to also join our Loyalty Card Plus. Next slide, please. Now, as part of our Lingkod Pag-ibig campaign, we've launched, luckily we've launched last December, our Virtual Pag-ibig. Virtual Pag-ibig is an online portal. It's like having your own branch. anytime, anywhere. So with if you have Loyalty Card Plus, it gives you direct access to a virtual pag-ibig. If you don't have one, you can still register, but there's a branch activation for all overseas Filipino workers, our members who are overseas Filipino workers. They can. We have a separate process for that. That would require submission of pictures of their IDs or passport, among other things. And there's a manual authentication being done by our people. So this gives you access to all your savings accounts with us, or contributions. You can see your contributions with us. If you have loans, you can also see them. If you want to pay, you can pay immediately. It's being powered by PayMaya as our payment gateway. And at the same time, if you would want to save more, you can also do that thing. And if you want to avail of loans, you can also do the same thing. So luckily, we were able to launch it last December. It was a multi-year project of ours. So we envision a lot of members to start utilizing this. And this facility has a two-way chat service being manned by real people, not by robots. So if you have questions, there's a 24/7 chat service being manned by our contact center. It's just that during MECQ, we had to limit the business hours or the availability of our chat service Monday to Saturday from 8 to 5 p.m. But after the lifting, we hope to go back to being 24/7 to provide 24/7 chat service or email service or contact service. Next slide, please. Now, this one is actually being beta tested now. Beta testing is ongoing. This will allow our borrowers, our members, to just file online, to go through a process of just keying in their membership ID number if they would want to apply for a calamity loan or multipurpose loan. So the requirement really is the same. So usually you would have to fill up a form, ask your HR to certify that you're an employee of that company, and then you would have to go to our to any of our branches to submit it physically. This facility will allow you to just take pictures of the front page and second page of your loan application. You just have to upload it together with your valid ID, and it would the system would authenticate you by checking your MID number. And once you're inside, it will ask you to key in your cash card. So may it be Land Bank Cash Card, DBP, UCPB, or Loyalty Card Plus, powered by AUB and Union Bank. So you'll have to key in your card number, which will serve as authentication also to make sure that it's you. And we also require a submission, a selfie of yours holding your valid ID and also your cash card, where the proceeds will be credited. And it goes directly to our system. We envision this facility to be used by most of our members. But just the same, as Lingkod Pag-ibig, as servants of our members, we will still allow, of course, acceptance of over-the-counter applications, especially for our members in the provinces who may have the facility or the internet connection or even gadgets to do it online. So there's still going to be, it will still be allowed, but we strongly urge our members to avail of this one. And we will be announcing it in a few days' time regarding live date or go live date of this one. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that ends my presentation. And
There's a question here from Mario Hernandez. How can I deposit through online for my MP2?
Yeah, a lot of members, actually, we've been monitoring that on a weekly basis. A lot of our members have been continuously saving under their modified Pag-ibig 2 accounts online in our website under virtual Pag-ibig. They can actually pay, and the payment gateway is PayMaya, which charges much lower than what the previous bank was charging our members. So it's just the convenience fee is a pass-on fee. We don't charge anything so that our members can transact online. It's a lot cheaper for our overseas Filipino workers because I believe the processing fee is just 1.75%. So if you are sending
Okay.
1,000 pesos instead of paying remittance centers $5, so that's a lot cheaper.
Let me ask a couple more, Mr. Moti. The Pag-ibig Fund introduced the virtual Pag-ibig, which allowed people to transact and avail of the fund services online. Could you tell us what other services Pag-ibig will automate in the future?
Yeah. The plan really is to extend all the services that we are offering in our physical branches through virtual Pag-ibig. And there are three different flavors. There's a virtual Pag-ibig for our members, another virtual Pag-ibig for our employers, like Manila Times could go through that, so that there's no need to sign applications from your employees. You just have to approve online, and it gets processed fast. And also another virtual Pag-ibig for our developers. So we've been planning to do that, to migrate all our services online, at least as an option. So silver lining with this pandemic is that it looks like the new normal would be more of online services. So we're there, so to speak. So inspections are now being done because of the lockdown via video calls for us to inspect the houses that will be financed by Pag-ibig Fund. Documents are now, we accept scanned copies instead of touching physical documents as added protection for our members. So the developers would submit to us scanned copies, and we review the scanned copies. So luckily for Pag-ibig Fund, but sheer luck that when we work on our projects, we believe that that's the future, and it's paying dividends now.
Let me ask a last question. The Balik Provincia program of Senator Go, probably our most influential senator now, has evolved into now an executive order. And this is meant to decongest the urban centers or motivate people to return to their home provinces. Is there a role that Pag-ibig is playing to help realize this campaign to decongest urban centers?
Yes. Actually, we fully support the Balik Provincia initiative now. So we fully support the efforts, especially of Senator Bongo, for Balik Provincia. In fact, we committed to open more small branches in cities, provinces where we have yet to open offices, so that we can serve our members who would be joining the Balik Provincia program. And at the same time, I also would want to highlight that more than 95% of the mortgages that we process are actually in the provinces. Nearest would be Cavite. There's not much in Metro Manila because we have a cap of 6 million. So we are already there. And the growth of Pag-ibig Fund is very strong outside Metro Manila, where the demand is. And just to answer the earlier question about the outlook for the housing industry, we've made actions like we are sending a strong signal, like the 10 billion stimulus package for our low-cost housing developers. That Pag-ibig Fund is here. We will make sure that there's liquidity, that all the mortgages will be taken out. And at the same time, we told them that most probably what will happen, because the demand is at more than 6.5 million housing demand now, the plan really is, for them to just continuously give us quality houses for our members and to give us good accounts. So more than that, we will take care of everything.
Thank you, Mr. Moti. I think everyone will be keenly watching news from Pag-ibig. I myself, I invested in your mutual fund, so I have a personal interest to. You
will be happy. You will be happily surprised.
Thank you, so sir. Thank you, Mr. Moti.
Please welcome Sheila Lobia. Sheila, good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Ben, for the introduction. Always a pleasure to be part of the Manila Times Business Forum. Clink, thank you, and Blanca for having us here again. So let me just share my slide before I start the presentation. So this morning, I'll be sharing a snapshot of the COVID-19 impact on the Philippine real estate industry. For the Philippines, we are always impacted by the economic crisis. And I'm sharing here a slide of all the crises that we have experienced. Very resilient. I've always shared this. But you will see that every time there is a crisis, our growth in terms of the GDP increases, it's sharply declining. I have only experienced the global financial crisis. I've not seen Asian financial crisis, but you will see here that there was a sharp decline. At that time, the market was booming, but come 2009, when the market hit, when the global financial crisis hit the Philippines, we have experienced that. And in the real estate market, rental were almost cut by 50%, the rental rates. And I'll show that later on with some other slides here moving forward. So this one, I'd also like to share this because we're constantly monitoring the average rental rates and land values in the market. And it's not surprising to know and see that Makati, BGC are still the top, holding the highest in terms of rental at almost 2,000 pesos per square meter. And Bay City, because of the gaming industry, the entertainment, the pogo, they have seen the highest jump in rental. They have reached 1,500 pesos per square meter already. And we will monitor this and we will share with you an update. Definitely there will be some softening here, maybe a decline in the next few months or years to come. And maybe in the next forum, Clink, we can share a new slide with data to back up this one. But as we speak today, this is what's happening. This is the current rate and still all good, all positive so far. What's driving the demand? Pretty much the same. The gaming industry are still taking all the office spaces, not just the office, but the residential market as well, the condos, fueling the retail, the luxury stores, buying things left and right, the Chinese people who are here. The BPO industry, the call center industry, they are still growing, not as big compared to how many years ago, but the growth is still here. And then traditional office takers who are upgrading their office or relocating or consolidating their operations. So these are the main drivers of the office demand. And the pogo industry, very controversial, a lot of issues here. But if you look at their growth in the last 5 years, they are taking right now, they're 10%, occupying 10% of the total office stock in the market and paying the highest rental, fueling not just the office market, but the condominium market as well. The BPO industry, their back to normal plans will be so much different. They're talking about business continuity plans. They have to somehow decentralize. They realize that when everything is concentrated in one place and there's a lockdown, it's so hard. The last 2 months, we receive a lot of calls from our client asking for help because they need to house their people. They need to have a skeletal workforce. They cannot have that work from home 100% all the time. We've checked with so many operators and even CCAP, DPAP, the outsourcing organizations are saying that they can probably just implement maximum of 40% work from home and the rest has to be done in the office because of some privacy issues and the telco, the internet, the data connectivity of the current market is also not that strong yet, and having people work from home is not what they have, is not something that we can already do at the moment. So there are a lot of rooms, a lot of things to be done in the infrastructure side of the country. In the provincial area, what's good is that a lot of good stock, good developments out there, and the rental rates is half of the landmark projects here in the metro. So if you see 1,000 plus per square meter rental rate in Makati, in the provincial area, you can get half of that. And the BPO industry, the outsourcing industry, will take advantage of this to also capture the lower labor, lower cost in terms of the labor market. In the residential market, housing market, we've heard so many things about this. Bulk of the condominium developments that we have at the moment and will be finished in the next 2 to 3 years are in that 2 to 7 million peso range per unit, which is targeting a lot of the young population, young professional, the BPO workers, the OFW, employees, the OFWs also. However, we don't see any price appreciation. It will be inactive at least in the next few months. In fact, a lot of developers are enticing people to buy properties right now by giving flexible payment terms, longer reservation period payment terms, just for you to buy during this time of the pandemic. And definitely a lot of people out there should be in the lookout to buy good properties, fire sale. There will be people who will unload their asset to become, more liquid as we go along. And therefore, people will start to sell their properties probably at a discount. So if you have cash, cash is king today. Time to look for that investment opportunities. So the new normal, with all the uncertainties that we have, with all the scenarios that I've shared, the current normal, we expect a lot of companies, businesses, property operators, developers to balance this life and economic well-being. So we have to look at that all the time. And what we would like to support as a real estate practitioner, and all the private sectors out there, the build project, it should continue. The Philippines has to be competitive. We need this infrastructure to attract more companies to invest in the Philippines, to put up shop here. And this is the best solution in the short term, because we want to prop up the economy. We want things to move forward, people to have money, people to spend, jobs to be created. And the build project is something that we highly support, and all the private sector should also highly support. And the expenses in the health and safety, the well-being, will definitely increase. In fact, a lot of property owners, developers, malls, etc., are already implementing this and will be implementing this as we open the economy again, as we see the new normal. The confidence of everyone will not be back until the vaccine is out there. While it's not there yet, we have to follow a lot of the social distancing, mask everywhere. So that will really be the new normal. And along with that, we have to slowly start the economy again, so that people will be able to go back, will be able to earn money, will be able to spend, and that will fuel everything back to normal again. And here is our near-term expectations, given what we've shared. What will drive the demand in the office market and in the condo market would still be the POGOs, the Chinese, very controversial, but we need them, they're growing. The BPO industry, as I've shared, the strategy now will be more to be able to be resilient, to have that business continuity, so that when another pandemic happens, they will be ready. Decentralization will happen, and it's happening at the moment. A lot of the players are already talking about where to go next, how they can decentralize their current real estate office plans, and how they can do it in the next few months or years to come. And the mixed-use township developments, house and lot, people have realized this. For those who have cash, who have extra fund, aside from having a condo in the CBD, they will look at house and lot again outside Metro Manila or near Metro Manila, as far as Cavite, Laguna, Batangas, and then Bulacan. And the increase in health and sanitation costs, very obvious, very normal. People will spend a lot on this. Property management will be very crucial in the next few months and years to come. And that ends my presentation. Happy to take any calls, any questions that you may have. And if you need more info about the real estate market, you may follow us online. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sheila.
Thank you very much.
If you can go back to some of those things you had mentioned, elaborate on them, on what are these silver linings that we can look forward to, as we struggle forward from this pandemic.
Okay, that's a very good question. Thank you, Kling. As a real estate practitioner, I always believe that investing in real estate is always one of the safest way to place your money, because land will always be there, the property will always be there. And when you look at the history, no matter what happens in the Philippines, anywhere in the world, not just the Philippines, the market will definitely recover. And once the market recovers, the land value, things will go back and appreciate again. So location is very important, key, and timing as well. So I have a personal story to share because it was also during the global financial crisis that we bought a property here in the South. And this is the opportunity that I said, every time that there's a crisis, you look at those opportunities. In 2009, when the GFC crisis hit us, a lot of those developers and even rich individuals, people who have extra cash, started to buy properties, look at properties, and those people who bought properties at that time are very happy today because, as a personal example, the land values here in the South, Las Piñas, Alabang area, in 2009, you can find a property at 10,000 pesos per square meter. Today, in our area, you can find that easily. The price is at 70,000 pesos per square meter. So, in a span of less than 10 years, you have multiply your investment 7 times. So that's good, and you can only do so in the real estate market. But it's a long-term play. It's not for everyone. So you have to hold the cash. You have to hold the property for a long time to experience that upside, that growth.
As you're answering some of these questions, our reach has exceeded 66,500. So a lot of people interested in the outlook in your industry. There is a question here from one of our viewers, Rem Ramirez. And her question is, would the work from home affect substantially the office market? I think you touched on this earlier, but can you elaborate on it? I mean, of course, I think Ben has also asked about maybe reconfiguring offices, but what is the larger impact on the industry?
Well, too early to tell. We don't have data to back it up yet. But number one here, it's going to be work from anywhere now, right? Not just work from home. But the infrastructure that we have in the country is still not that strong. So technology part will play a very crucial role for the work from home to be totally embraced and implemented here in the country. In Metro Manila, it can be doable. That's why the outsourcing industry, they're saying that they can probably implement up to 40% is a stretch already to have 40% of their workforce work from home. Because imagine they will also have to provide those people with a laptop, cell phone, data connectivity. So it's going to be costly, and the quality also might not be that good. And there is privacy concerns there. A lot of big clients, especially the banks, the insurance industry, they are into that privacy, law, and you cannot just bring home the work. Some are lenient at the moment. They are, because it's a global pandemic. They can't do anything. But moving forward, they still want that everything is secured inside the office. There is an strong IT infrastructure. So what will happen in the midterm, as I have shared, social distancing will have to be observed. So 1 meter desk, 1 seat apart. So definitely in the shorter term, they would need more space. Now, long term, it has to be reviewed and reassessed again. The outsourcing industry, it's to stay. Companies will always talk about being efficient and cut costs. And one way of cutting costs is to always outsource non-core stuff. And the Philippines were the number one when it comes to voice, and second when it comes to non-voice. We need to retool people, and that's why I like what the Undersecretary have shared. Education is part of the things that they will focus on. They need to implement that, because that's where we will grow the business. We need more engineers, more accountants, that higher value kind of work, so that the outsourcing industry, the higher paid work will be outsourced here in the country. And that would in turn translate to more office space in the market. And the real estate market is always a good place for investment. As I have shared, the property will always be there, and housing is always part of the basic needs of any human being, especially us Filipinos. Yung pangarap nating magkaroon ng bahay at lupa, it's always there. You want to have your own house and lot eventually.
Ben, may we have your closing summary for the final part of this program?
Couple of words of wisdom for everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank everybody that stuck with us, and this has been a new experience for us too. And I guess that is significant because, if you think about it, 4 months ago, nobody knew we were going to be here like this. And it affects everything and everybody. The way we all work, the way we live, the way we play, which we can't even do right now. And I think that's the biggest takeaway from what we've heard from Dr. Chua at NADA, from Sheila just now, and Mr. Modi from PAG-EBIG is that our recovery from all of this, bearing in mind that the health concern is still a priority, but our recovery from all of this is a work in progress. We have just barely gotten started on it. We're all kind of novices at this. It's kind of comforting that the government and the private sector is trying to think ahead and developing plans to deal with it. But I think what Sheila said there at the very end is the absolute truth to all of this is that we need to be flexible and agile and be prepared for the unknown. Because like I said, 4 months ago, this was an unknown. And here we are, but we're here and we're still making it. And I think that, with a little bit of time and hard work, we're going to make it. And so I'm very optimistic about it. And I hope that, we can hear some better news the next time we have one of these exercises. And that's my thought for today, Clink.
Thank you.
What do you have to say?
Well, I just want to thank everyone again. Sheila, thank you. Thank you to Secretary Goa and Mr. Moti of PAG-EBIG. Thank you. I just found out that our reach has now exceeded 76,000 and it's still growing. I really, we should thank all of the viewers today. And for those who did not catch the presentations earlier, of course, the Manila Times will carry stories about this forum tomorrow, and I suspect in the following days. And there have been some questions also about the slides of the slide presentations of our speakers today. We shall ask those from the speakers and share them on this platform. For those of you who are still unable to get a copy of any newspaper because of the quarantine, please follow us on our website, www.manilatimes.net. We also have a digital edition, which is an exact replica of our paper. I think that's going to be the new normal. You can subscribe to that for only $2.50 per day, and the first 2 weeks is free. You get that through digitaledition.manilatimes.net. And with that, thank you again to everyone. And that concludes today's forum. Thank you, and good luck to us all.